Against media boss given Mkhari and his wife Ipeleng have been provisionally withdrawn. The couple opened assault charges against each other at the Randburg police station after what's believed to be a physical fight at their home at the weekend. They were both released on R1,000 bail yesterday afternoon and were advised to appear in court. A statement issued by Power FM earlier said that the pair had decided to drop the charges and were committed to resolving the issue at home. However, the NPA has since said that any such decision will depend on the prosecutor. Well, for more information on this story, we're now joined on the line by NPA spokesperson Phindi Louw. Phindi, good evening to you and thank you for your time. We understand from the statement that was issued earlier, the Mkharis have decided to drop the case, but it's not as simple as that, is it?
Indeed, good evening and thank you for having us. Yes, it is true that it's not as easy as that. A decision whether or not to prosecute is a prerogative of the NPA. So the matter was brought to the Randburg court, wherein two dockets were brought to the senior public prosecutor, wherein Mr. and Mrs. Mkhari were accused persons in each of the dockets. And the senior public prosecutor then took a decision to prosecute them with assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm. And they briefly appeared before a magistrate in court 3. And the matter was later adjourned so that their attorneys can take proper instructions from their clients. It is during this adjournment that information emerged that has given rise to further investigations, that gave rise to further investigations. So the NPA then decided to consult with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, who then advised that seeing that there's this information and also regarding the facts of the case, the Director of Public Prosecutions advised the prosecutor to provisionally withdraw the charges pending the finalization of this investigation.
Phindi, there were all reports a little earlier that suggested certainly that Ipeleng Mkhari had visible marks. That's what we understood the police had said, that there were visible signs of some kind of assault. Can you comment on that?
Firstly, I need to put it clear that the senior public prosecutor, due to the seriousness of the offence, decided to prosecute, and obviously she was informed by what was contained in the docket, and information of injuries was also stated on the docket. Hence, she decided to prosecute the matter in the first place.
Can you appreciate, though, the difficulty that many couples might find themselves in when it comes to complaints of this nature and indeed taking the decision to try and withdraw the original complaint that they might have laid with police?
Yes, it is very difficult to deal with cases of domestic violence, and we view them in a very serious light as the state. Hence, we don't normally easily just withdraw such cases because we know that at the end of the day, they cause many problems for the state, wherein we find ourselves as having failed victims of such crimes. So we normally check first if the interest of justice permits that that case can be withdrawn or not. And in an instance where the interest of justice outweighs the interest of the individual, then the state would continue with prosecution. So this is not a first instance where we find cases of couples who come and say we want to withdraw. So we normally tread carefully around such cases. And like I said, we check if the interest of justice permits us to withdraw the case or not.
Because in a sense that crimes like this aren't just about the two people concerned. They really are against the society at large. Exactly.
It is tried that in any criminal case, the state would consider the interest of justice, the interest of society, weighed against the interest of the individuals. And if the interest of justice outweighs the interest of the individual, then the state would normally proceed with prosecution, because as a state, we have an obligation to protect citizens. And where we feel that it's in the best interest of the victim to continue the case, and that's how we normally proceed here.
There might, of course, be the criticism that this is going to be handled with particular sensitivity and care because of the high profile of the individuals involved, and that perhaps not everyone will get this kind of treatment. Your response to that?
No. We really need to emphasize the fact that whether it involves high-profile persons or not, at the end of the day, what informs a decision on whether to proceed to prosecute or not is the facts of the case. Each case is treated according to merits, and it has nothing to do with the social standing of a person, but rather what the law dictates must happen.
So what happens now? What's the next move on this?
Okay, the docket has been referred back to the South African Police Service for further investigations. And once they've concluded those investigations, they'll be bringing back the docket to the NPA for its final decision.
So at this stage, you can at least confirm that the idea that the NPA or the prosecutors will withdraw these charges, that at least at this stage isn't true.
Yes, it isn't true because we will be guided by what the investigations will reveal. So depending on what the investigations reveal, the prosecutor will then decide whether or not to proceed with prosecution.
All right, we'll leave it there with Phindi Louw, who is the spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority. I must point out at this stage, of course, we did try and reach out to Mr. and Mrs. Mkhari for a right of reply, but there's been no response to our efforts to try and get them to speak on this matter.
The idea of a democratic and free society, it is an idea for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an idea for which I am prepared to die.
Now, former First Lady and UN advocate for women and children's rights, Graça Machel, says young Africans have to